Let's start with a really big question, one that gets to the very heart of the Christian faith. If God is all-loving, why would he punish sin? Why is punishment necessary at all? Well, we're going to dive into the logic behind one of the most important and, frankly, controversial ideas about the cross, penal substitution.
All right, to really get our heads around this, let's start with an analogy, something we can all picture. Imagine a courtroom. The air is thick with tension. The stakes are as high as they get.
There's a man on trial, and there is no question about his guilt. None. The evidence against him is absolutely overwhelming. The testimony is heartbreaking. Everybody in that room knows he did it. But then, something strange happens. The judge looks right at this guilty man, cracks a smile, and with a soft tap of the gavel says, "You're free to go. Case dismissed." Now, what would we call that? We certainly wouldn't call it love or mercy. We'd call it what it is, a complete miscarriage of justice. It's corruption. That judge has failed at his most basic job. And that really brings us to the core question, doesn't it? Why do so many of us expect God, who we're told is the perfect judge, to act like that corrupt one? To just look at real wrongdoing and say, don't worry about it. You see, this popular idea of God just kind of letting things slide, it misses a huge piece of the puzzle. This whole framework argues that until we really wrestle with why sin must have a just consequence, then the central event of Christianity, the cross itself, is always going to seem confusing, or maybe even barbaric. The why behind the punishment is the key that unlocks the why of the cross. So to understand the crime, we have to start by understanding the one who was wronged. And the foundation for this whole idea isn't our failure, it's God's character. If you look at how the biblical story is told, it doesn't actually kick off with the problem of human sin. It begins by telling us who God is. His nature is the bedrock for everything that follows. And the main word the Bible uses to describe God is holy. Now, that's a word we don't use much, but it means so much more than just good. It means he is morally perfect, absolutely pure, and completely, utterly separate from anything that is evil or unjust. And here's the crucial point. God's laws, his ideas about right and wrong, they aren't just some random rules he made up one day. They're a direct reflection of his own perfect, holy character. They actually describe what goodness is. Just think about the two greatest commandments. The first one is vertical, love God. It orients us correctly to our Creator. The second is horizontal, love your neighbor. It orients us correctly to each other. See, this shows that sin is never just a private thing. When you break the vertical command, you inevitably damage the horizontal. It's not a rule book. It's the very blueprint for reality, flowing from a God who is both righteous and relational. Okay, so if that's the foundation, God's perfect character, then we can finally understand what the offense of sin really is. So what is sin? Well, it's not just a simple mistake or a minor slip-up. The sources paint a much bigger picture. It's rebellion, it's us saying, I want to be in charge. It's idolatry, placing our ultimate trust and worship in something other than the Creator. Yes, of course, it's also law-breaking in what we think and what we do, but at its absolute core, it is relational. It's a personal offense against the holy God who made us and loves us. And because sin is a real offense against a real God, it creates real objective guilt. Now, this is a key distinction. We're not just talking about feeling guilty, we're talking about being guilty. It's a legal state. It's a state of accountability before the ultimate judge of the universe. And this leads to a pretty stark and unavoidable consequence laid out in the Bible. The just payment, the wage that's earned for this rebellion, is death. And that means separation from God, the very source of all life, goodness, and light. All right, so you've got a perfectly holy God on one side, and on the other, a humanity that is genuinely guilty of offending him. This brings us right to the center of the problem, what some people call the divine dilemma. Let's just walk through the logic here. If God is truly good, if he's truly holy, then by his very nature, he can't just be neutral about evil. He has to oppose it. His own perfection demands it. And this is where we loop right back to our courtroom at the beginning. A judge who just lets evil go unpunished isn't a loving figure at all. He's an indifferent one. His inaction says that injustice doesn't matter. And that is the exact opposite of goodness. So here's the massive tension. On one hand,
God's perfect justice and holiness mean he can't just sweep sin under the rug. He can't just dismiss the case. But on the other hand, his character is also defined by this incredible love, this mercy, and this deep, deep desire to forgive and restore the very people who have wronged him.
So that leaves us with this seemingly impossible question: how can God do both at the same time? How can he extend mercy and forgiveness to guilty people without completely compromising his own perfect righteousness? How can he be both the just judge and the loving father? I mean, it really seems like an unsolvable problem, a paradox with no way out. But the Bible doesn't just leave us stuck there. It starts to point us toward a glimmer, just a hint of a solution. And the way out of this dilemma isn't to weaken justice or to weaken love, but to find a way to satisfy both. And it happens through a single, powerful, and honestly pretty unexpected concept. And that concept is substitution. It's the simple idea that one person could stand in the place of another, that the consequences that were due to one person could be fully taken on by someone else.
So to be clear, we haven't even really explained the cross yet. All we've done is lay the groundwork for why, in this theological system, something like the cross is even necessary. The problem demands a solution that is both totally just and incredibly loving. In Part 2, we're going to explore how God himself provides a perfect substitute to take the penalty for sin in our place. This is the very heart of penal substitution. Justice is satisfied, which allows mercy to finally and freely flow. It's how God can be both perfectly just and the one who justifies those who have faith,